Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes. And I'm going to have to just try and bite my tongue because this one's making me very, very angry. There are lots of things this Labour government do that really grind my gears. But this one, it makes my piss boil. Bridget Phillipson, who is the Education Minister, or as I like to call her now, the abuser-in-chief, wants to get into children's minds and not teach them important things that they need to know, but to give them propaganda, socialist propaganda, anti-Western propaganda, anti-British propaganda. She wants to, what she calls, de-Westernise the teaching and curriculum of science. First of all, address the elephant in the room. I don't think we should be de-Westernising anything. Our culture is good. Our culture is the best. And I don't give a shit what anyone else says. Our culture does not drive cars into crowds. Our culture does not slit the throats of children. Our culture does not get down on its knees 5 times a day to pray to some imaginary space pixie. We believe in science. We don't think that the world is ruled by an imaginary friend. Our culture treats women with the same respect as men. Our culture does not require women to cover themselves up. Our culture values its daughters. Our culture has led to the greatest inventions in the world. Name me an invention that's come from a non-Westernised country in the last 500 years that's been of any use whatsoever. I'm not taking the piss. I'm genuinely asking. And if someone can put it down there, I will respond to it. Guaranteed. If you can give me something that's been of general good use from a non-Westernised culture, I'll highlight it. Because I can't think of one. I would also point out that Western culture encourages openness, encourages freedom of thought. It does not close down that which is not mentioned in some old scribblings by a child-abusing peasant, for example. And so Western culture is good. And anyone who says they need to de-Westernise our culture is not only a traitor to this country, but actually should go and be forced to live, especially Bridget Phillipson, should be forced to live in a non-Western culture just to see how long she lasts. And then tell us then about how good it is to be in a non-Western country. Because I guarantee she wouldn't last 5 minutes in Bangalore or Lahore. Not without being terribly abused anyway. Getting away from the cultural side, let's look at the science side. The Renaissance is European. 500 years ago, the Renaissance came and it changed everything. It changed the way we looked at the world. In fact, when Galileo put his eye to his telescope, looked at Jupiter and saw the satellites orbiting Jupiter, it changed the way we looked at the entire universe. The Renaissance did not just give us some of the greatest artists of all time, and some of the greatest works of art, paintings, sculptures, It gave us a whole new way of thinking. We were not the product of God. We were our own free-thinking, inquisitive little monkeys. We started looking up, we started looking out, and we started looking in. And we made discovery after discovery after discovery. 300, 400 years of being held back effectively by the church between about 1100 and the start of the Renaissance. And all of a sudden, boom, we're off the leash, and we start continuing. If you actually look at human evolution, or not human evolution, sorry, human development, we went like that as a species, and then we stalled for about 500 years and then carried on. And why we started carrying on is that point where we started going up again was the Renaissance. 500 years of the church. That's what religion does. It restricts you, retards you, holds you back. Because you're not allowed to think outside of what the scribblings of an old book say. Once those shackles were off, we went and we made leaps. And we made leaps and we made leaps in every single field. And it was all exclusively European. It was only really until the 1800s when the likes of America joined in. Now, that's no reflection on Americans. It's just simply, well, they didn't exist until 1776. And even before that, when they were just the colonies, they were still British and Eurocentric. But then we had the Europeans and the Americans. And then, of course, there were the Far East, which have westernized. And sure, they've made massive contributions too. Japan, Korea, South Korea. Massive contributions. But it's all westernized. May not be westerned, especially the Japanese, but westernized. It's that mindset. You're not controlled. You're not restricted. You have the desire to push and the desire to make money from what you are inventing, creating. That is Western science. It's not held back. It strives ever onwards. Sometimes for money, of course. Sometimes for ease, of course. Sometimes quite accidentally, discoveries are made. The man who invented Post-it notes was actually looking to develop an incredibly strong glue. Instead, he found an incredibly weak glue. But his little inventive mind thought, ha-ha, and thus the Post-it note. The man who invented the paperclip. Is there a single simpler machine? So simple that the original patent about 150 years ago shows exactly the same shape as the ones you buy today. They haven't needed to be improved. Sure, they might put a little kink on the end to help you slide it over, but the principle of a loop never changed, never needed to. It was genius born. He wasn't looking to invent a paperclip. There's all sorts of little things that go around like this. But it's all Western. Nothing for anything that Western. For Bridget Phillipson to come down and say de-Westernise science, tell me, Bridget, what the actual fuck are you going to be teaching these kids? Man make fire, mud pies, wattle and daub. Because without Western science, the world you inhabit simply wouldn't exist. Thanks very much.